You know, one of the hardest parts about making a leap into living out of a school bus is figuring out what the heck you're gonna do with all your stuff. And then some of us end up with a bus like mine. All this space, totally wasted, and all of our stuff with nowhere to put it. If only there was a way. And so when I'm faced with this situation, there's one thing you can do to solve all these problems, and that's to install an underbody truck toolbox like this one right here. That's what we'll be doing on today's video. I'm going to show you how we do that here in our shop, and along the way, testing this Anker Powerhouse 767 to see if it has what it takes to run my shop and power this project from start to finish. We're talking cutting, grinding, welding, running an air compressor for the rivet gun. That thing's gonna do it all, and by the end of the day, we'll have a mount made so we can slap this under a bus and make all the storage we need as we go down the road. My name's Chuck Cassidy. I've been building buses for 8 years. I've got a lot to show you. Don't go anywhere. Now before we get started, I want to go over some of the tools that I'll be using today so that you know what you'll need if you decide to take this project on yourself. Starting of course with personal protective equipment. We've got our safety glasses, gloves, and some ear protection. We'll be using dangerous tools that make a lot of noise, so you got to stay safe. Next up, I've got to talk first and foremost about the Anker Powerhouse 767. Now, Anker has asked me to do a very thorough test and review of this product, and that is exactly what we'll be doing today. This unit comes standard with a little over 2 kilowatt hours of battery storage, with the expansion battery that is doubled to just over 4 kilowatt hours, and it's capable of up to 2,400 watts of output through its 4 AC ports on the front and the 30 amp AC port. Now, I'm very confident that that's going to be enough to run our project, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to put it through its paces today. Since this is a metalworking project, we of course have to have a welder. Now, I would love to use my big 220 volt welder, but we're here to test this, and it doesn't have 220 volts. So we'll be using today this titanium welder from Harbor Freight that I'm actually pretty excited about because it's 115 volts, it only weighs 15 pounds, it's flux core, so I don't need a gas tank, and because of its portability, I know that if I bring this with me and run it off of my Powerhouse 767 or 757, I've got a portable welding rig that fits in the passenger seat of my truck. Really sweet. Up next, we've got our favorite, the Rockwell Portaband bandsaw. I'll be using that for making most of my steel cuts when we're cutting our dimensional steel. I've got my old trusty Makita rat tail angle grinder. This thing is a gnarly beast, and it's really gonna put the Anker through its paces because when you load this up, I know it really pulls some juice. We're gonna be using our rivet gun to shoot some steel pieces on, trim pieces around the luggage bay, and this needs compressed air to operate, and actually quite a bit of it. Now, again, I've got a big 220 volt compressor. I'm looking right at it, but we can't use that if we're testing this. So I'll be using the old trusty pancake compressor, and it's gonna be cycling a lot. And I know this thing uses a lot of juice to fill that tank up to 140 PSI. So that'll also be a great test for the Anker. And it's something that most contractors have kicking around in the back of their truck. Up next, we've got a few battery powered tools, my drill, my driver, an angle grinder. Now I'll be charging the batteries for these off of the Anker unit as well. In addition, last but not least, we've got some clamps. And for lifting the box up into place, I like to use this automotive style jack. It's super convenient, it holds it right where you want it while you get it set in place. Now let's take a look at some of the materials we'll be using for this project. This is a 48-inch by 18-inch high by 24-inch deep underbed truck utility box. It's, you know, some combination of those words, if you're searching for it on the internet, will turn up the results you're looking for. I like this box because unlike other storage boxes, it is 24 inches deep. A very common depth for these boxes is about 18 inches, and that leaves a lot of depth on the table, about 30%. That's why I chose this unit. It was about 680 bucks. It's all steel, not the cheapest thing in the world, but I'll tell you, I can't build a box this nice for that cheap. The bulk of our framing will be done with this. This is 1.5 by 1/8 inch angle iron. I've got a 10-foot stick here. That should be plenty for us. Right here, I've got a piece of 1 by 2 inch rectangular steel tube. That'll function as our cross members running across the top. And then because I like to trim out the openings where we cut the skin of the bus, I'm actually going to be using this as a piece of metal trim that'll get riveted on around the sides of the opening just to clean it up, because I don't like just having exposed cut sides of metal showing around my box. Rest of the materials that we'll be using will be some 3/8 coarse thread bolts, grade 8, because why not, along with some nylock nuts. They have a nylon insert there, and that means that when you tighten these nuts on, they're not going to loosen out. Now, as we go along the way, I'm going to be periodically giving you cutaways to show you how many watts I'm drawing based on the various tools that I'm running at the moment. Right now you can see the standby current of the welder plus my camera battery charger is about 26 watts. This unit is capable of putting out 2400 watts continuous, which is about the same, exactly the same as a 20 amp AC circuit that you would have in your house or in our shop. So in theory, it should be more than enough to meet all of our needs today. And we're going to test that and find out. Now, unless you're new to the channel, you know that I'm the kind of guy that likes to be educated and read the directions before we start a project. Now, I was watching another bus conversion channel just the other day on YouTube. They were installing one of these truck boxes, and their method for installation was to rivet it up through the top of the box into the frame of the bus. Looks easy, looks strong. The rivets are totally up to the task, but what isn't is the thin steel of the box itself. In fact, they even go out of their way to tell you right here, number 2, not to do that. They say mounting your toolbox through the top, back, or sides without bottom support will significantly reduce the capacity and possibly the life of the toolbox. When I show you the design of how we will be mounting this, you'll see that it's replicating the functionality of the brackets that they would typically sell you with this. They support the bottom corners on each side of the box. This box is going to be carrying tools and equipment, and the last thing I want to do is worry about this thing getting damaged, falling off the bus, or hurting somebody else. Plus, this thing was expensive. I think it is worth, taking the time to do it right and install it nicely. And what we'll be doing is we will be making a piece of angle iron that is this size, that goes down and comes in like this, and that'll capture that bottom corner. There'll be a piece of angle iron there on this side, and then another piece of angle iron here on this side. Then the next thing we'll do is we will take some more angle and we'll run 2 pieces of angle iron up on each side here, like this, and there'll be 2 pieces coming up on this side. And those pieces of angle iron will come up and catch our pieces of 1 by 2 inch square steel tube. Those pieces catching the tube right there will be what carry the weight of the box, and we'll have 2 pieces of that 1 by 2 inch tube right there tied into the angle iron, and this tube we will bolt up into the floor supports on the bus using our grade 8 hardware. That gives us a box that bolts up easily into the floor supports but offers support for the box from underneath, which is what the manufacturer wants. This is the location on the back of my bus where I'm going to be installing that truck box. Now that box is 48 inches wide. We have a total of 60 inches from there to there. Now, there's a concept in this world called departure angle, and that is the angle from the bottom of your tire there to the bottom of your bumper there. The more stuff you have hanging down here, the more likely you are as you drive down, say, a steep driveway and pull out, to drag your behind on the bottom of that driveway. So my goal is to put that box as far forward as I can without it interfering with the wheel well or this mud flap or anything going on there. To make things even more complicated, notice we have the exhaust pipe coming here right in the way of where we're going to be mounting this. Now for today, I'm just going to cut this guy right there because eventually I'll be rerouting it to exit just in front of the wheel there. That'll give us all the room in the world that we need to mount our box up here. Once we have our layout set up, we'll go ahead and make our marks and we'll cut down the skirt here and remove that panel, which will give us the opening for us to put our box into. You see these flooring supports? This is what we're going to bolt through to support the weight of our truck box. If our box ends here, that means if we run our top supports just a little bit longer, we'll be able to through bolt into this flange here on the bottom of our support. And the same will be true up on the front edge. Now we're gonna have to cut this support out for the mud flap. I'm not too worried about that. If it feels wobbly, we can add something else in. But again, the front of our box ends here, so I'm gonna run that top support long and through bolt it onto this flange. That'll give us one support here, one here, and then one on each side up there. So that's 4 places that will be bolted in. I'm gonna measure the distance I need to go from there all the way to that guy, so I know how long to cut my top supports. We'll get those cut, and we'll start making up the frame. Once the frame is mounted, and maybe once that paint on the frame is drying, we'll come down here and start making our cuts on the body. All right, so returning back to our drawing, I got those measurements. These top pieces here, I know that those need to be 66 inches long times 2 for this one and this one, so they'll catch our floor support here and our rear floor support there. Now we know the box is 24 inches deep, so that means these bottom pieces of 1.5 inch angle need to be 24 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and nail those up. We'll need 2 pieces at 24 inches there. We also know that the box itself is 18 inches tall, which means that our vertical risers coming off these bottom pieces need to be at least 18 inches. Now, of course, we're going to be welding those onto the sides of our 1x2 inch steel tube, so we need 1 inch to accomplish that. So that means these guys need to be 19 inches, and we'll have 4 of those. So we'll have 19 inches times 4. I went ahead, I've got my angle grinder, I've got my porta band, and those cords are coming together into my splitter here. This splitter runs back, and I'll show you, it goes right there into that yellow extension cord coming into the face of the Powerhouse. Just to prove it, let me just, here we go, all the way down into my splitter. Let's go. We'll go ahead and do this one on high, see if it uses any more power. It was like 528 watts there, so. Now that we got our pieces cut, any good fabricator worth their salt is going to take the time and grind down the rough cut edges of this. I'll be using this Makita angle grinder, and we'll take a look at how many watts this sucker pulls as I get into grinding on that Powerhouse 767. See how much power that's pulling. Oh, about 450 watts or so. I'll pull you in so you can take a look. Now, just for fun, I'm going to see if I can get that number up even higher, and I'm just going to grind on the side of the welding table and really give her some and lay into it as hard as I can. See how high we get. Now, that's pretty good. I think the highest I saw there was about 1630, which that's getting close. That's right in line with the max output rating of this angle grinder. So again, still not a match for the Powerhouse, and we are down. We've used 6% of our extra battery there, so that's only 3% of our total capacity. I think we're going to be fine. So we've got our 24-inch piece. That's going to go right under the box like that. That's going to provide our support on the sides, which is what the instructions and directions for the box say it wants. We're going to have our 2 top pieces like this, these pieces will be bolted through and up into the floor supports of the bus. And then we're going to use our angle iron as drops like this, welded onto the side of this tube here. And down at the bottom, it's going to weld onto our lower support there. And that's going to give us all the strength we need. We're going to have 4 of these, one here, and 2 on the other side. So my next task is to go ahead and I'm going to affix this temporarily with a magnet so that it sits in place. I'm going to get this positioned with the right amount of overhang on each side as I want so that it lines up with my holes over there, or with the floor supports on the bus. And then I'm just going to go ahead and tack this all together and we'll be well on our way. Here we are on the other side, and in my haste I forgot to mention a very crucial thing. So sight down the top of this box. Do you see how it's all wavy gravy? If you'll notice, I put a 1/8 inch spacer here on this side and here on this side. And that's because if this is totally tight and snug, all of the imperfections in this box, which you can see pretty clearly here, make sliding it in, once this is all done and installed on the bus, sliding it onto the bus, almost impossible. Ask me how I know. The other thing is I went ahead and added a 1/16 inch spacer on this side. Now I'll remove all these spacers, you know, once it's all welded, but while I'm welding it up, I want a little bit of space in here because look, I don't know if you can see, but this gap, it varies quite a bit. Like, look at that. That's almost 3/16 of an inch right there. And then it goes away to nothing here. So just something to keep an eye out for while you are fabricating this box. Leave yourself some room. These boxes are not square. We're down to 85% on our expansion battery, but still 100% on the built-in battery. And while I go and, you know, tighten up all these welds and zip them up, keep an eye in this corner. You'll see the amount of watts that I am drawing as I weld this up. Got it on the welding table, went ahead and finished up all of our welds. Let's see what we're sitting at here. So we're down to 74% on the expansion battery, 100% still on the built-in battery. So I think we're gonna make it. Up next, I gotta grab my angle grinder and we're gonna go ahead and just clean this up, grind down some of the welds, and get the slag off as best we can so that we can get a lovely coat of paint on there. And while that paint's drying, we'll go cut a hole in our bus. Let's get to it. I'll be honest with you, that is a lot more grinding than I would normally do, but I'm also trying to drain the battery bank on that Powerhouse, and it's just not that easy. So I went to town with the grinder. Let me show you the results that we got. You know, you should never put your welds on the internet if you're just a beginning welder. That's my ugliest one. Let's see if we can find something pretty. Hey, that's like okay, you know. Anyways, we're all welded up, we're ground down, and let's see how much power we used. We are down to 69% on our expansion battery pack and still 100% on the built-in pack. That is pretty fantastic. It's saying we got 4.7 days remaining of whatever it is we're doing. So let's go ahead and get this guy on there and drill those holes. Okay, so I've got, again with the blue shims back in place, and we're all situated here. And I've got a long clamp, clamping the bracket up. And then I've got these shims here. So then I'm gonna drill my 2 holes, go ahead and put those bolts in, and then we'll do the same on the other side with the shims. And then once that's all done, we can take this baby and get it painted, clean the box off, and we'll go cut that hole. All right, so we got our 4 bolts in, at least pre-drilled, you know, they're not tightened down. We're gonna take the box out, then we know everything is good to go. We can go ahead and paint our frame so that'll be ready to go on install. And I think we're gonna have to do install tomorrow, you know, because the clock ticks and it's already 6:15. But that doesn't mean we're done, because I wanna go make some cuts inside of that bus first. Woo-wee! Okay, so I got my Powerhouse moved over here. Got a cutoff wheel on the angle grinder, and I'm just gonna show you what we're doing. So we're gonna make our cut following this body panel line right down there. Our upper cut is actually just gonna go right underneath this rub rail. We'll measure 48 inches from that line, and we'll give ourselves maybe, let's say, another 1/2 of an inch, so we can have a 1/4 on either side for wiggle room, and we'll cut down there and remove this panel, and that'll give us the rough opening. And I'll go ahead and clean it up with a flapper wheel on the angle grinder, and I think we'll call it a night there. That paint is drying, and we'll come in tomorrow. We'll go ahead and mount that box up underneath it, install our trim, hit everything with some primer, and call it a day. Happy-go-lucky, it's a little bit of primer there. I'm liking it though. It's gonna look real sharp. I think that's gonna do it for tonight. We have officially made it through a whole day running on the Powerhouse, and let me bring you in here and show you just how much power we've used, or haven't used. 63%, and oh, the built-in battery's still at 100. So we'll go ahead and we'll do it all day tomorrow until this project's done, and see where we stand. So we'll cut that exhaust pipe out, remove the mounts. We'll get our box installed, trim it up real nice, maybe even attend to that rub rail matter just to make it look pretty. But this fella is tired. It's 7 o'clock. Look, it's Ben, he's still here. All right, see you tomorrow. Holy cow, it's a whole nother day because the sun's out, my shirt's different. And let's see how the Powerhouse held up overnight. I accidentally left my camera battery charger connected to it, and I know that thing's a waste of power, so shall we see how we did? Let me zoom you in here. I just clicked that on. It looks like we lost about 10% overnight, being a little reckless with it, and we're down to 51. Not too bad. We ended the day with the cut that we made last night, and we're gonna start the day by removing this section of exhaust piping here. We're gonna reroute that to come out in the front so we can hang our box, and then we'll bolt the box up. With the box in place, I'll throw on a couple pieces of trim, and we're gonna call it a day. We'll see how much power we used, and just for fun, guys, I'm gonna keep using this and see how many days of shop power it provides me. I think the answer is gonna be close to 4. I can almost run my whole shop for a week, as long as I'm not, you know, milling lumber or something like that. So, all right, let's get working. Enough gabbing. This pipe's out. In the interest of fairness, since I am gonna be using my battery operated impact gun and my battery operated drill, I thought I should probably charge up a battery off this just to, you know, really hold true. So I've got this hooked on. That bad boy only pulls 68 watts. There we go. Okay. Can we just, yup. Yes, we can. We can just slide that out. Hoo-ah. That's good for 5 horsepower. There's our exhaust tube. We'll figure out what to do with that later. I'm gonna go fetch that box, and we're gonna put the box on a jack, put it in a position. We'll make sure that we're in, you know, flush, looking good. And then I'll drill up and get that sucker bolted in. And then we just have to make it look pretty.
I will say that cooler got to temp 4 times faster.
Scoot it back a little more.
Than the ice stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay. Once we clear this mud flap, we need to.
We'll go your way.
Yeah. I'm back up. Is that pancake compressor still here?
Sure is.
I'm gonna have to use that to get my compressed air off the anchor. Oh yeah, no, it'll be cool. We're up in position. We were just checking to make sure if you sight down the side here, that we're looking nice and even all across. What we're gonna do is drill a hole here and here, and then the same on the other side. And this is where we're gonna bolt our box to the floor of the bus. So we'll go ahead and get that done. And then it's on to the aesthetic element. I'm gonna remove these rub rails and put some trim pieces and recraft that rub rail. Make it look nice and maybe even clean up that body damage just a little bit. Things that I hate doing. And drilling steel over my head, on my back, is at the top of that list. And now comes the moment of truth. Yeah. That looks good. Oh yeah. I think that's gonna be just dandy. Can you get in there? Can I fit in here, I wonder? Oh, not for the claustrophobic, but honestly, not a bad mother-in-law suite, really. I'm gonna remove this to make way for our trim piece that'll come down and finish that off. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, remove this whole piece of rub rail. We'll put a trim piece in here, and then I actually will take the end cap of this, weld it onto here, so it's nice and finished. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna just try to see if I can bring this back around a little bit. And since I'll be riveting my trim pieces on, you know it, we got an air compressor. We're gonna go ahead and hook that up and see how she takes it. Nothing like a good old pancake air compressor, just make you go deaf on a Friday afternoon. Let's see, where does that plug go? Angle grinder? Gone. Oh. Look at that. Look at this, look at that. Okay. 100%. Where are we at, by the way? Down to 41. Let's see. What's that pulling? 803. Yeah. We'll let that go for a minute. Whoa, that's gonna be drilled out. Okay, two of my favorite tools. Planching hammer and bucking bar. We're gonna see if we can't straighten out this rough sheet metal here. Let's see what we can work up. Let's try this. Oh yeah. I'm just gonna build up. I think we'll just be able to flatten that out, hopefully. Wouldn't that be cool? That would be cool. Okay. So take a look at this. We really got that big crease out. It still looks awful. So now we can go in with our bucking bar and our planishing hammer. This is turning into a little body repair 101, and maybe we'll use this guy on the back to help flatten that out. So. Now that piece is a lot straighter. This is our trim that we're going to be using, and it's going to go right in there like this and give us a nice clean profile. I got to obviously cut it to length, but that'll clean up that cut edge for us really nicely. Yeah, okay. I like to pre-drill these because then your layout's all set. You don't have to worry about getting your layout straight once you're in place. Just drill and fill, as we like to say. I'm gonna get this first one set, make sure we're still straight, and then shoot the rest on. All right. I'll be shooting this piece on with just some 1/4-inch zinc-plated steel rivets. These are structural steel rivets. I'm not a fan of stainless steel rivets. Stainless steel is a lot harder than regular steel, and it wears out the teeth in my rivet guns very quickly. So we don't use stainless around here. They don't use stainless at the bus factory, so I figure we don't need to use it around here. I'm gonna hit these guys with primer real quick now that they're looking good, and we can get it started on that rub rail. This piece of rub rail used to be here, but we had to cut the end off and it's way too big now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this piece up here, but what I wanna do is cap it with this nice little end piece from the other side. So it's gonna go something like this. We're gonna cut it and weld it back together, you know, so it'll be really cute like that. Well, we're back here on the welding table, and we've got this. So I know I've got 10 1/4 inches is my total length here. And as I sit here looking at this, about 15 1/2. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut 5 inches off of this guy, our big piece. And then I'm gonna weld this on there, clean it up, and we'll shoot this on. And of course, we still have the anchor powering all of this. We're down to 30% on the expansion pack. I'm gonna plug my welder into it, because that's how we'll be doing this. And I'm gonna go ahead and make my marks and get going. That's pretty good, huh? I'm stoked. Look at this. Prime it. Oh yeah. Look at that. Practically disappears. Well, there it is, folks. All said and done, even snuck in a little body work. Did something cute along the way. I'm really happy with it. I don't know about you, but I could see myself storing some stuff in there, huh? And let's not forget the piece of equipment that made this all possible. Hey, look, it's Ben. And that piece of equipment is the Anchor Powerhouse 767. Let's see where we landed on how much power we actually used. Let's take a look at this. So still at 100% on the main battery and 20% left on the expansion pack. So the truth is we could have done this whole project without the expansion battery and been just fine. And well, that's really exciting news, because when I'm out on the road, if I've got a project to do, I know I can bring this and it's gonna have all the power I need to do a whole day of work. Be that metalworking, I'm sure it could hold up to doing carpentry, running a saw, making some cuts, no problem. That's awesome. I tell you, I like this more and more every day. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. My name's Chuck Cassidy. If you like this stuff, make sure you stick around. And we're gonna see you next time we continue getting my bus ready for a trip to Wichita and some paint. See you later.